Hello, YouTube. This is Chelsea the Destroyer. We're going to watch part of the spectacular failure of the Star Wars Hotel. I say part of it by, by Jenny Nicholson. I say part of it because I didn't realize when I was like, oh man, I'm going to watch this, that it is over 4 hours long. And y'all know I talk too much. So like I'm going to talk a lot, which means this is going to be at minimum 6 hours. So I'm going to do it in parts. Because I don't have time to sit here and watch all of it tonight. So this is going to be an ongoing thing that's going to possibly drive me a little bit insane. But we're going to watch some of it. So this is part one of me watching this. So grab your snackies, grab your bevies, and let's learn about the Star Wars Hotel. What do you guys know about the Star Wars Hotel? She's probably going to go over it, but I just think it's absolutely ridiculous. The whole thing. But let's find out. I have other things to do. I can't get sucked in until 3 a.m.
So on March 1st, 2022, the Walt Disney Company opened their newest experiment in themed entertainment, an immersive, multi-day adventure set in the Star Wars universe. When this was first announced, everybody just called it the Star Wars Hotel. Disney World has a lot of themed hotels: Safari-themed hotel, New Orleans-themed hotel, amusement park-themed hotel. I'll
give it. Every time I've gone to Disney, I have only stayed in one Disney hotel. It was the Pop Century. Any other time I have stayed off property, I don't hang out at the hotels when I go. And with how expensive the Disney specific hotels are, I'm like, I don't think it's worth your money to hang out, because you would have to extend your stay by like a day or two just to experience just the hotel you're in, right? So like, I just don't think it's worth your money because it's really expensive. Good night, DV. Like, with how, like, Disney just keeps getting more and more expensive every year. So, like, I cannot grasp, like, oh, man, let me stay at a Disney hotel and let me stay there extra days. Like, I ain't got that kind of money.
So people were like, okay, they're building another one, and this time the theme is Star Wars. But this project was never intended to be like Disney's other hotels.
I think she's a horse girl.
If you stay at the amusement park themed hotel, you're supposed to enjoy the ambiance while you're there, but you're expected to leave and spend 90% of the day outside at the actual amusement parks. Meanwhile, the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser was pitched as an all-inclusive resort, a landlocked cruise. Aside from a brief excursion into the Star Wars themed section of Hollywood Studios, you're not meant to leave the building. You wouldn't pick the length of your stay. It's always 2 nights, 2 days. And you're provided with a trip itinerary which blocks out pretty much everything almost down to the minute. You're better off thinking of it as a summer camp. Space camp, if you like. Or if you're sort of nerdy, you can think of it as LARP, live-action roleplay. You aren't just doing Star Wars-themed activities, you're supposed to feel like you're in the Star Wars universe. Everything is themed to look like you're on a spaceship, the common areas are populated by character actors.
Yeah, she's got, okay, I asked if she was a horse girl because she has a bookshelf in the shape of a horse on her wall. Like, that's why I asked that question.
And you're encouraged to dress up and create a character as you're guided through a storyline. It would be Disney's most unique, most ambitious, and most immersive offering yet. And it would also go out of business. Yeah, on May 19th.
Like, really fucking quickly this thing went out of business. This thing was like $6,000 or some shit for 2 days, 2 nights. They didn't explain shit all about it. Like, people were like, okay, so why is it $6,000 when I could stay at, you know, these other ones and do the same thing for cheaper, only this one's just Star Wars themed? Like, they did not explain what this hotel was, that it was basically like a LARP at all. Like, not well at all. It was so bad.
2023, Disney announced they would be calling it quits that September. Only 18 months after the hotel's grand opening, it would close forever. And I went to this hotel, so this video, which was initially just meant to be a deep dive of the hotel and a review, has instead become a kind of eulogy and a detailed archive of what the hotel was actually like. And together, we will discover why it went out of business. That might sound daunting, but don't worry, I have organized it into an internet-friendly numbered list. So join me on this adventure. By the end, you'll feel like you were were there too. And also, I think, feel other
Probably not.
emotions. Part 1. Why have they done this? I think immersion has been a prevailing buzzword in theme park marketing for at least a decade now.
I think this time we really raised the level of immersion.
The immersion into the Pacific Northwest is absolutely incredible.
Guests will be able to explore even more immersive worlds.
Disney Cruise Line ships have immersive activities.
The first immersive storyland that we built at Disney Hollywood Studios.
You immerse yourself into the culture of where you're visiting.
And really immerse themselves in the story.
Really to immerse.
Yeah, you immerse yourselves into Star Wars. You just happen to have a paper cup that has Coca-Cola's logo on it. It's fine.
The audience in the experience.
And immerse the guests in a world of fantasy.
A whole new world. It's immersive.
So immersive.
It's incredible. I mean, it's so immersive.
The most immersive. The most immersive.
The most immersive.
The Wizarding World of Harry Potter was pitched as immersive because everything looks like the set of the movie, they have themed food, and you can buy wizard robes and wear them around. Pandora, the World of Avatar was pitched as immersive because everything looks like the animation from the movie, they have themed food, and you can buy Avatar ears and wear them around. Star Wars Galaxy's Edge was pitched as immersive because it doesn't look like any particular movie, they have themed food, and you can buy Jedi robes, but you're not allowed to wear them inside the theme park. Yeah, that one kind of stumbled across the finish line. Anyway,
Weird.
all of that is what you might call immersive. But I would also call it just a theme park. That's the definition of a theme park, a themed environment with rides. Compare this to something like a Six Flags, where it's like a crumbling gas station with roller coasters out back, and one of the roller coasters has a Superman logo on it.
A crumbling gas station with a... Wow.
I can never help it. I'm always attacking Six Flags unprovoked. Six Flags I would call an amusement park and not even a theme park if I was in charge of the terminology, because theme parks are themed. I love that about them, but that's not revolutionary. That's just what they've always been. Disney has had these design principles forever. They just used other synonyms for immersion. It was called realism, maybe feeling transported, maybe escapism, maybe
probably.
even this plaque that Walt Disney installed at the entrance to Disneyland when he built it. He didn't know about the word immersion yet, but if he had, it would probably be the only word on there. I mean, Pandora, the World of Avatar, isn't more immersive than Disneyland's Adventureland. If I go to Adventureland, it looks like I'm at a jungle outpost. I can eat themed food, and I can buy a safari helmet and wear it around.
The old man dancing Six Flag commercials were peak. They were very good.
I've never seen anyone do that, but I have seen them for sale, so it's possible. Sure, Pandora has physically larger and grander set pieces, and it emulates a landscape more foreign to us, but that's in part because Pandora was built in 2017 with a budget of $500 million. Adventureland was built in 1955, and I'm pretty sure Walt Disney just paid the construction guys in soda pop and grilled cheese sandwiches. But at their core, the two lands are the same in that the immersion is purely aesthetic. There's no one specific narrative to be told. Nobody is really in character. The employees in Pandora may refer to the film Avatar as the documentary, but they're not going to speak fluent Na'vi back to me, no matter how angrily I shouted at them. So the word immersion is fairly new to the scene, but the practice isn't. But with competing parks building more and more detailed environments, we see the word immersion applied to basically everything as a one-word way to communicate that. And with this heavy marketing emphasis on immersion, it's no wonder that companies wanted to take it further.
This is the next phase. This is the next level of immersive storytelling. Everything in the immersive field we've been dreaming of.
And once you've done themed environments, themed food, themed clothing, the only way to take it further is to move all the way into LARP. But an experience of this kind had never been offered by any theme park company before. The last thing you want is for your product to alienate the Thompsons from Iowa who love to spend money on Disney vacations but have never stepped foot inside a board game store. And while nerds are pretty aware of what LARP is, most normies have either not heard of it or have never considered it something they might enjoy. In fact, to most non-theater kids, the prospect seems kind of mortifying. It would take a savvy marketing team to pitch this to the average consumer. Part 2.
And that's not what happened.
The marketing was
The Tartan Samurai. Hello. What actually is Six Flags? So Six Flags is a amusement park. It's got roller coasters. It's got rides. It's especially, I guess, specifically has like roller coaster type rides. It is a thrill park, if that makes sense. They do have some like IP related things. So they have like a Batman ride. They have a Superman ride. All of these are roller coasters. They have a lot of like Looney Tune characters that you can do meet and greets with. Like so mascot like Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck. But it's like a chain of a thrill park, if that makes sense. So that's what it is. So like you have stuff like Disney World, where Disney World does very much thematic stuff based mostly on their IPs now. So you've got like you've got Fantasyland, it has all the Disney princesses in it, and then you have some like extra stuff like Frontierland or whatever, where you have Big Thunder Mountain Railroad that's not really based on anything. It's just a thing that was made. But like most of their stuff is now based off their IPs. You have Universal, which is based off movie IPs. So they have like the little Marvel section where you can like ride the Hulk, and then they have like the Mummy section, and they have a few, and like Harry Potter, and then they have a few like original kind of things, slightly like the Rip and Rocket roller coaster, stuff like that. It's Six Flags is kind of similar, except they have very much less IPs that they have. So the pause before amusement. If you like thrill rides, it's fun. It's a cheaper like amusement quote unquote thing. It's cheaper. It's smaller. I'm sorry, I keep hitting my mic. Cheaper, smaller. It's mainly if you like roller coasters, you go to ride roller coasters is what you do. I've been a few times. I've been with friends. I've been on school trips there. It can be fun. I like roller coasters, or I used to really like roller coasters. I still kind of like roller coasters, but I get motion sick now. So it's kind of like that, but it's not as, it doesn't feel as well maintained, I guess. Yeah, it's more just like, hey, you go for the thrill rides that are there. You don't really go for like the shows or the ambiance or like the vibes. You literally just go to ride roller coasters.
Extremely bad. The hotel concept was first accidentally leaked in April 2017. Disney had contracted a third-party survey company called Swagbucks to try to gauge interest for an immersive Star Wars experience. As with every theme park industry survey, the content was immediately posted to multiple fan sites, so the secret was out.
And tonight, only Eyewitness News has learned of what may be one of the biggest talkers yet. Channel 9 anchor Jamie Holmes got a hold of a survey that has been sent out, wanting to know if fans would be interested in an entire Star Wars themed hotel.
The survey wants to know if fans would be interested in a Star Wars boutique hotel where you would spend 2 nights in a completely immersive Star Wars experience.
Okay. The person that knows the most about Star Wars that I know is Abby, who is not here, unfortunately. But Abby, right? I feel like I had to explain what the fuck this hotel was to Abby. Abby loves Star Wars, and Abby likes Disney and has been to Disney with me. And I had to explain to her what the fuck this hotel was. So obviously, they didn't explain this worth ass. Like, they didn't explain this at all. Like, this is... Oh, my God.
The survey includes renderings like this, where the resort looks like a spacecraft, and rooms that have an interactive view out the virtual window on the Star Wars galaxy.
The survey specifically teased a multi-day experience with character performers, secret missions, a pool, a fitness area, robot butlers. The survey asked whether guests would be willing to pay $900 to $1,000 per person for such an experience. Initially, nobody was sure whether this was just a distant idea or if Disney...
$900 to $1,000. I just want that to be like in your mind. That's the price they're teasing. $1,000.
Serious about it. But just 3 months later at the 2017 D23 Expo, CEO Bob Chapek got up on stage and clumsily and uncharismatically announced it to the world.
So today I am thrilled to confirm that we are working on...
Okay, you know why? Listen. I have not watched all of the Star Wars movies. I'm going to be very upfront with that. And I am not really big into Star Wars. I did watch The Mandalorian. And I did watch the latest trilogy with Rey. The Mandalorian is a fucking sci-fi western, which to me felt more in line and in tune with what Star Wars kind of originally was than the fucking new, hey... Our main character is a Mary Sue, and she's basically perfect coming out. They should have made Rey evil, okay? I'm just saying, not like, oh, she's a clone of, or like Palpatine, whatever the fuck. They should have just made her go to the dark side and made Kylo Ren be like, oh shit, I'm a gray Jedi, and or I'm going into the light. Like, they made a boring ass fucking trilogy that was a waste of my time to watch. Like, oh, thanks for the follow, Samurai. Welcome to Kitty Kindle. Anyway, they like... They made a boring thing. And then they're like, here's the Mandalorian who was made by a completely different fucking person. And everyone's like, yes, this person gets Star Wars and what people liked about Star Wars. Just like, oh my God. No, I didn't watch it because Abby would have forced me. She's been talking about the Bad Batch forever. Like, Abby doesn't really force me to watch Star Wars things because I'm like, that's too much. Like, I'm very surface level of a lot of stuff. That is too much. And she's like, no, that's fair. And so, like, I'm like, yeah. She's like, if you ever want to watch it, you let me know. I'll watch it with you. I am really bad about forcing or getting Abby to watch stuff. The inverse is not true. So, like, you know, if Abby's watching something weird, it's probably because of me. But, like, you say we. Abby's not been trying hard because I was like, that's a lot. And she goes, yeah, it is. And so, like, that's what it was. The invitation is open if I do want to watch it, but so far, no. But I did watch The Mandalorian, and I liked The Mandalorian, and I was like, yeah, this is like a Western. Like, this is great. I highly suggested it to my dad to watch. I was like, you should watch The Mandalorian. Like, even if you haven't watched a lot of the newer Star Wars stuff, you should watch The Mandalorian. I think you'll really like it. Yeah, Disney right now.
Experiential concept ever. It combines a luxury resort with an immersion in an authentic Star Wars environment.
Initially, I remember the response being generally positive, but sort of muted. Like, people were curious what this would entail, but with just a couple of pieces of early concept art and vague marketing phrases like, be immersed in your own Star Wars adventure, it was just too early to really even understand what it was. I mean, Disney will literally call a pizza parlor immersive, so that doesn't mean much. These days, a lot of the stuff they announce at D23 doesn't even end up getting built, so I understand why the response was a little subdued. But at the next D23 Expo in 2019, things were more concretely taking shape. It appeared the hotel was actually happening, and we got more of an outline of what it would entail. The audience gets to see some cool concept art of an arrival terminal. We'll put a pin in that. We're told about space windows, interactivity, branching story paths.
It is an opportunity to live your multi-day story as it unfolds and...
Okay, so this was explained at D23, which is a big Disney-specific, like, convention, all right? Years ago, I really, really, really wanted to make it to a D23. A lot of times they happen at the same time that something's happening in Disneyland, and I wanted to go and, like, be like, okay, I'm going to go to D23, and then I'm going to Disneyland just like everybody else, and, like, you know, it would be a mess. I mean, it would be absolutely busy as hell. But I did want to do these, right? Because I'll talk about what's going on in the theme parks, the different theme parks. They'll talk about what we can expect with upcoming movies and like all this other stuff. I really wanted to go. They're explaining this at D23. This is probably the most they'll have ever fucking explained what the hell this is to any audience.
Interweaves with the crew, other passengers, and those Star Wars characters.
At this point, the public's interest was piqued, but overall, there just wasn't enough information to know what to make of it. Okay, so what's next? Well, it's kind of weird, but the next info about the hotel they dropped was just showing us that they made this lightsaber.
Listen, I said we cannot watch all 4 episodes of this because we know I talk a lot. Hush.
Light, darkness, a balance.
Okay.
They made a lot of commotion about this special lightsaber. See, it looks like one of those fancy effects lightsabers, but it actually comes out of the handle like the ones in the movies. And everybody was like, wow, we can buy that? And they were like, well, no, you can look at it exclusively on the Galactic Star Cruiser. Which, that's a little less exciting, right? If I just wanted to look at a convincing lightsaber, I could already do that by watching the film Star Wars. I want to touch, but I can see why I can't touch it. People found the patent, and it basically works like an extendable tape measure with a spool of LED gamer lights glued onto it. It could never hold up to roughhousing from a kid, and I also get the impression that it can't retract in an elegant way. Like maybe they have to take it apart and re-spool it or something. You can see everyone that does handle it acts like it's going to fall apart at any minute. When Josh D'Amaro shows it off at D23, he doesn't swish it around. He won't even gesticulate while he's holding it. He just holds it perfectly upright with both hands and then gingerly passes it off to his assistant, just like in the movies. In my opinion,
Just like in the movies.
Monumentally stupid of them to advertise this ahead of time. I think it's the kind of parlor trick that's more dazzling if you aren't expecting it, and it's such a limited trick, right? Like, this thing we see in the ad and at the expo, that's the whole thing the lightsaber does, and now we've seen it. I think this would have gotten better online buzz if they'd saved it as a surprise for opening weekend. But to be honest, they might have showcased this out of desperation. It certainly seems like for several expos they haven't had much to announce. On August 4th, 2021, Star Cruiser...
Yeah, that's just wild to me. Like, they don't explain much about this at all, and then they're like, why did it fail? What do you mean, why? You didn't explain shit.
Releases their first real ad.
For the first time, it's real.
Is it?
We've traveled to the far reaches of the galaxy. We got recruited by the Resistance. And now we're ready.
Come on, Dad. We gotta go save the ship.
No. We're gonna save the galaxy.
So that was pretty vague, but it at least communicated a few things. You see a family is on a spaceship, they've met a few people in alien makeup, and got to do some kind of resistance.
So my issue with this, yes, I'm going to keep pausing every 3 seconds and go on tangents. That's just who I am. Shut up. My issue with this is that this is how Disney shows off every fucking thing. They announce a new ride, like Avatar or something. They show it off like this, like you're in it. It's immersive. Like you're gonna ride the, I don't remember the dragon things that aren't dragons. Like you know, the things. I don't remember what they're called. You're gonna ride this thing. You're gonna do this. You're gonna, you know, whatever. There's a new, oh, hey, there's a new restaurant. Immerse yourselves into this. Like she was talking about, they kept talking about immersive, but they use this type of commercial to explain every new ride, every new section of the Disney park, every new restaurant, everything. Freaking Disney cruises, anything Disney related, they explain it in the same way. So why would you think that this is anything different from a normal hotel stay? Like legitimately, a normal hotel stay at any Disney-specific resort. Because this is how they advertise everything in any of the park. Any park, this is how they advertise it. This is kind of how they advertise, hey, we're making a Star Wars-specific land. There's a Millennium Falcon ride. Go pilot the Millennium Falcon. Same kind of vibes.
Mission. It's a decent teaser, I guess. None of the characters in this ad will actually appear in the finished product, and you can tell from the way they shot it that they haven't completed any of the building interiors. But I think it's supposed to be more of a proof of concept. Unfortunately, on the same day they dropped this ad, Disney also dropped the sample pricing for the experience. And here's some foreshadowing for you. The news was not well received. People
remember, $900 to $1,000. Would you be willing to pay $900 to $1,000 for this experience? Is what they asked in that survey.
Had already been skeptical about this project, and Disney being Disney, there was already a lot of speculation that it would cost a lot, but it actually cost a lot. And that'll be in our next chapter. But for now, let's just say it was expensive. From this point on, marketing will be fighting an uphill battle to start any positive conversation about the Galactic Star Cruiser, because now all anyone wants to talk about is the price tag. It isn't until November of that year that we get our next substantial info drop. In this promotional video, executive Josh D'Amaro walks over to the Star Cruiser to demo it. For the life of me, I cannot understand why they have this shot of him strolling in from outside. It's so unimmersive. And then they fade to him standing in the lightsaber training pod, and it looks so sad and featureless.
We have been working on this
and flat
to have a whole brand new way for our
like,
guests to experience
all of this
ancient art of the
looks
lightsaber.
fake.
During normal operation, this room has ambient lighting, but here they've overlit it and made it look very cheap.
This looks unbelievable.
So the important context is that this was our first real look at what you would do on the Star Cruiser. People now knew what it cost, but not exactly what it was offering. A frankly insane order in which to release information. So for this video, Josh is going to demo the exclusive lightsaber training experience.
Oh. All right, so I'm
so
standing
you're right there.
Facing
You're
here.
face off against the remote.
You can go to the park and pay $200+ to build a lightsaber, right, at the Disney park. Which there's been arguments that those lightsabers aren't as good as the lightsabers from, I forget what the company is, but that has been making like fan lightsabers that you can fully customize for fucking ever. I don't remember what it's called, but there is a like premium lightsaber manufacturing company thing that exists before Disney decided to do it in their parks. This could have just been part of that experience. Like, yeah, it's like a limited edition thing. Only a few people can do it. It costs over $200. And you could just do this there. Like, hey, you built your lightsaber, now do this thing. And that's part of the experience. Okay, bye. Like, what is this? What is this? Yeah, Dusty and Tiffany have them. But it's like, what is... It's just little lasers.
So it looks bad. We can all see that it looks lame. Bad. He's moving so slowly, and I'm so secondhand embarrassed about how rigidly he's moving. Like, why is he moving his torso and not his arms? Why is it like that? Again, if they're marketing an immersive experience, why are they doing such unimmersive showcases? Why not have kids do the lightsaber experience and have everybody in costume and shoot and edit it to look a little more dynamic? Why do they think we want to see an executive trying it? I'm giving that ad a thumbs down. But let's move on to the next big promo video, released just a couple weeks later. Disney has pulled out all the stops for this one. They've got their most charismatic Imagineer giving a tour of the ship. They've got an actor from one of their ABC sitcoms here to try it out.
Oh, sorry. Dusty is one of my friends. Dusty and Tiffany. I've mentioned Tiffany as one of my wives multiple times. Dusty is Tiffany's husband. Commander Tiff. But yeah, they're one of my friends. Skullsies, please. Hello. I don't take requests. Well, you can send me an email to chelsworththestory@gmail.com, but like, that's not a guarantee in any way. The lightsaber does look kind of short.
Hello there.
I'm super excited to see what you and your team created.
We cannot wait to have you aboard.
Okay, that dude looks super excited.
Is a first of its kind vacation experience where
have a good night. DeCrazy.
You get to spend 2 days and 2 nights living out your very own Star Wars story.
Oh, I'm just too excited. We gotta go inside.
Okay, now it seems a little fake.
This is my favorite piece of marketing material. The ship looks empty and lifeless.
Thanks for the follow.
Like when you're in a mall past closing time. The delivery is stilted. The editing is supremely awkward. They constantly sound like they're being cut off.
It's like I'm walking straight into a Star Wars movie.
Except it's not a movie, right? You get to be in the middle of it all and in the middle of the action.
And then there's activities you can do on here.
Yeah, there are activities on board the ship.
Actor Sean Giambroni looks briefly at the bridge, sends the ship into light speed.
Punch it!
And then he wanders away from his tour into this half-empty lounge where a Twi'lek singer sings at him.
What's going on? I just popped through that door and I have no idea.
Thank you.
Look above and see the world slowly emerge before your eyes.
And once we're shown this character, the ad just kind of becomes a short music video. Like, this is not presented from the perspective of the sitcom actor as he marvels at this new world. The camera takes us physically away from him to a perfectly centered shot of the alien singer. He stumbles back out into the hallway. Was that all a dream? What does it mean? And the ad ends there. I can't even imagine what they were thinking with this one. Okay, first, let me do a compliment sandwich. I theoretically like this as theme park marketing material. Instead of just giving us practical information, they decided to do a little skit, which is always better. And I, for one, love Sean Giambroni's G. Willikers performance here. It's like they got Mickey Rooney to do the ad. To me, someone who's watched a lot of vintage theme park...
I know you just did not call the Opera Scene in Fifth Element stupid. I know you did not just disrespect that like that. Get out of here.
Promotional materials, this all feels charmingly dorky and sort of retro. But ask yourself, is dorky and retro really what you're going for when you're promoting an infamously expensive, ostensibly groundbreaking experience? A project that already has a lot of naysayers? I would think you'd want to make it look as cool as possible. Really put your best foot forward. Not to mention, this video conveys...
It really feels like they just didn't know... Like they made this thing and then they just did not know how to advertise it, which is wild to me. Like, I don't understand. All their advertisement would have been better if they just sat down and was like, hey, so we made this hotel. It is like 2 nights, 3 days, completely immersive. You're going to basically play out like a character in a storyline within the hotel. You'll be in the hotel the whole time. Like, and you get to be in Star Wars. Like, you get to be a Star Wars character and you get to be in different storylines depending on how you interact with things. It's completely interactive. Like, that would have been better than all this like weird teasing thing they're trying to do here.
To nothing about what you actually do on the Star Cruiser. The Disney marketing department seems to think saying punch it is enough of a selling point for an attraction, and I think they're mistaken about that. The building doesn't even come across well because all the sets are overlit and underpopulated. They look cheap. Furthermore, why would you choose to do an ad that's centered around the fact that there's a singer? I think this character is a cool bit of world building, and a live singer does make a restaurant feel more expensive, but surely they didn't think that this would be the main selling point of a Star Wars roleplay experience. The performance itself is awkward. Like, it's not even a performance venue. She's just standing in the middle of a small lounge between tables, singing loudly to like maybe 10 people.
She's not even on a
She's
stage.
not even doing a
weird.
lounge singer song, which might have helped the vibe. She's just doing like a human pop song. It keeps cutting to the other patrons of the bar and they're just kind of bobbing their heads in polite disinterest. If you're doing a skit anyway, why have the weird framing narrative where Sean Jambroni walks into a fake hotel to speak with an Imagineer? Why not just shoot a little skit where he's already living in the story of the hotel? They're trying to hook us on the idea that this will be an out-of-this-world adventure, but Sean's whole adventure was that he briefly saw a woman singing and she looked unusual. Anyway, this ad was poorly received and widely mocked. Allegedly, hotel dates which had previously been fully booked suddenly became available in the week following the ad. That would suggest that some people found the ad so discouraging that they went out of their way to cancel existing reservations. And I think these reports must have been true because within the week, Disney deleted this ad from all platforms.
Jeez.
Yikes. If you're wondering how Disney tried to follow that, the answer is that they didn't. That ad went over so badly that I guess they just completely gave up on shooting new promotional material for the Star Cruiser. New Twitter promos would pop up, but they would just be stills of concept art or recuts of that first teaser ad supplemented with a little bit of new footage. To emphasize the choose your own adventure aspect of the experience, they would add in clips of each story path. So they had a Jedi ad, a smuggler ad, and they had an ad about how you can sell Chewbacca out to the First Order and get him thrown in jail, which was so poorly
They had an ad that you could be a Fed.
Received that Disney would later delete it from all platforms. It's weird that that happened twice. The thing about these ads is anyone with a functioning brain sees this footage and is like, that feels improbable. Logistically, I doubt I'll be doing a solo run through a whole set of...
Yeah, because how many people are going to be at this hotel? It's not going to be 1 or 2. Like, it's going to be hundreds of people are going to be at this hotel. So it's like, how can they do this to get... How can you experience what they're showing you, right? Because there's going to be too many people doing the same fucking thing as you, right? So it's not going to be your solo adventure. But that's kind of trying to, like, what they're kind of trying to tease, I guess. Like, they're...
Fine, movie-accurate adventure. But then, if my visit will look nothing like these ads, what will it look like? A question Disney seemed unable or unwilling to answer. Instead, they just kept showcasing the same limited roster of activities they'd already told us about. Like, Good Morning America did a promotional segment, and surprise, it's pushing buttons on the bridge, it's the lightsaber game again, a chance to meet Chewbacca, which you can already do in Disneyland, and for some reason they let Bob Chapek wriggle out of his den and fumble his way through an interview. Once again, no real insight into the choose your own adventure aspect, despite it being the biggest selling point of the hotel. So I've pretty much covered all the ads intended for the general public, but since I'm a hardcore theme park fan, I did personally try to delve a little deeper. So through all this, I was watching all of Disney.
Some of the Disney Imagineers responsible for creating the immersive new experiences sat down to discuss this groundbreaking adventure into a galaxy far,
social
far away.
media channels, and they posted a few panels with their Imagineers. Maybe it's unfair to lump these in with the ads since they're only intended for nerds, but they did give me a little more info about what you do in the gameplay.
There might be someone that you help stow away. There might be someone that you help get thrown in a brig, right? Like,
or break out.
Or break out of the brig, right? There could be a galactic superstar who entertains you on the first night, but then also tasks you with helping her smuggle something.
Nice. Finally, we get a concrete example. I love that.
Or you might help someone get their luggage on board without somebody noticing. You never know.
Okay, I'm definitely getting the idea that we're going to smuggle luggage at some point.
I think about the fact that you might meet one of our characters. You might meet one of them on the bridge. You might meet them sort of on a screen first. Then you help them board. Then you smuggle their luggage.
Okay, a lot of smuggling luggage, perhaps.
Then they appear on the ship.
Physically, they walk into the room.
While you're smuggling their luggage on board.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting.
Then you see them later, they send you a message saying, thanks for your help with the luggage.
As the opening date approached, Disney...
So I'm a luggage carrier. I'm a luggage smuggler. Like, is that what I'm doing? That's kind of the vibes I'm getting here. I don't know why I would have those vibes or that thought, but you know.
Of course, pivoted to influencer marketing. And in my opinion, they managed to fumble this too. From what I saw, most of the people they invited were TikTokers who just like stood in the atrium and did viral dances. Why would seeing the grown-up dancing girl from High School Musical dancing in the atrium make me want to book this trip unless I also planned on dancing in the atrium, which statistically I don't. I feel like even if that did successfully pique the interest of their audience, a lot of these people's fans are late high school and early college students who don't have the financial flexibility to book the Star Cruiser even if they want to. Besides, if all you're looking for is an attractive backdrop for photos and dances, you could just go trample around in the Super Bloom or book any resort with an infinity pool. I think a more realistic demographic would have been to focus on Comic-Con types, older nerds who have grown-up jobs and are already familiar with role
and grown-up money and drop it. Like, you want to talk, like, listen, so I've gone to Dragon Con multiple times, right? That is a place, like, yeah, you'll see a lot of young kids running around Dragon Con now, like the little anime kids. I'm not saying I'm not one of them, but like, you know, definitely there's a younger generation that are now going to Dragon Con, but it's like, it's overwhelmingly like an older generation that goes. And they drop money. And you could tell because you go to the vendor's room and like a lot of the stuff is expensive. They have whole ass like furniture that they're selling. Like, hey, this is a tabletop gaming table that is expensive. It's fully made out of wood. It is so you can play D&D, and when you're done for the night, instead of having to put away everything, you just cover it and it's a table. Yeah, well, you know, there's people older than me going to Dragon Con. I'm just saying.
Playing. So I think they would have been better off mixing in big fish from the smaller ponds of LARP, cosplay, probably D&D podcasts. I know these are marginally more obscure hobbies, but a lot of money is spent on them every year. And here's another general issue I've always had with Disney influencer marketing: naming conventions. In the olden days, Disney would call stuff by fairly natural, simple names. Tomorrowland, Space Mountain, the Alice in Wonderland ride is called Alice in Wonderland. They don't do that anymore. I think it's for copyright reasons or for search engine optimization, but it's so awkward. Now Disney products are called things like The Little Mermaid, Ariel's Undersea Adventure, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. So you end up with all these products which, colloquially, nobody calls by their actual registered names. People say Star Wars Land, they say the Star Wars Hotel. People say, I want to ride the Cars ride. They don't say, I want to ride Radiator Springs Racers. And the big problem here is if you make contracts with influencers and you require them to call your products by the full legal names, they're going to sound like you're paying them. Imagine if I told you, I went to Disney World and saw Star Wars Land. It was pretty fun. I saw the Star Wars bar and I went on the Millennium Falcon ride. Now imagine if I told you, this summer I got to experience Star Wars Galaxy's Edge at Disney's Hollywood Studios. I loved seeing Oga's Cantina and blasting off on Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. Which one do you believe more? And yet Disney's marketing team is absolutely allergic to just letting people call things by their casual nicknames. And I think it makes all media they produce, host, and sponsor sound extremely insincere. This problem is especially present in this one marketing product I found, the Plan Disney podcast. I highly recommend giving this podcast a watch sometime, by which I mean it is fascinatingly bad. Basically, on this podcast, Disney brings in a rotating cast of real fans and social media personalities to give trip reports and offer advice to fellow guests. The podcast isn't secretive about being produced by Disney. It's shot inside the theme parks. They disclose that their panelists are compensated. So with that context, I don't think it's weird that the panelists would only have good things to say about Disney World. But what I do think is weird is the way they talk.
Do you have anything that's coming up that's exciting you about Disney destinations?
Nice.
Okay, I am very excited. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. And my friend and fellow panelist was recently on the maiden voyage of Galactic Star Cruiser over at Walt Disney World Resort. I was just talking to her. She said that it's...
So just like over at Walt Disney World Resort is just, it's awkward. Like, it's awkward.
like being the main character in your own Star Wars story.
All of the terminology is so rigidly corporate. Half the time the hosts are literally reading off a prompter, and the rest of the time you can tell they've been briefed on the questions and prepared their answers ahead of time.
Guys, we cannot forget the ultimate Star
Every single one of them is holding note cards. Every single one of them is holding note cards. Like, okay.
Wars fans, right? I mean, what would be more intense than a 2-day stay at the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser?
Yes.
We're talking about an immersive experience.
And like, why? Disney has so many fans that will uncritically celebrate their products without getting paid, so why not just let them use their own words? Why make your own fake podcast in the first place? Nobody's watching this except me, and I'm only watching it as performance art.
After you check in, you jump into a launch pod.
Okay.
And in my opinion, this is when the adventure really begins.
It never used to be like this. Why does corporate mandate that they talk about the products this way? Why is all this marketing so bad? Are they really so out of touch? Could they be so naive? In all fairness, I don't envy the marketing team for Star Cruiser. This experience is clearly intended to be more than the sum of its parts. A collection of fairly pedestrian activities dressed up with clever showmanship and put together in a high enough quantity that the overall experience will dazzle you. So how do you market something like that? Showing any one activity in isolation will look bad because it's not exciting enough on its own, but showing all the activities will ruin the product because it relies heavily on surprises. What's worse, this level of immersive activity has only been attempted by theme parks a handful of times before.
I'm not saying you can't be vague with your marketing, like, but you need to be like, it is an immersive story. You are going to, you know, you're going to quote unquote launch, right? You're going to be on a Star Cruiser for 2 days. You're going to be on a Star Cruiser for 2 nights and 3 days, and you're going to live as a character within Star Wars. There are multiple storylines that you can partake in. It's completely immersive. There's, you know, people on set or whatever, and then you don't have to go in further. Like, you can be vague about what the stories are and kind of what the activities are, right? Because you can be vague and you can hire people or like invite people to come in and experience it and then get them to talk. That's how you should be doing like your marketing, your advertisement marketing, right? If you're going to get like influencers and stuff, like just, hey, come experience this and then talk about it. And it's okay. Like you can, so, okay. Something that's happening right now in Tokyo Disneyland is their new fantasy something just opened up. Okay. So they have a new Rapunzel ride. They have a Frozen ride. And like new restaurants and some other stuff, right? And they have like people are going there and getting to experience it early, and they're talking about it on TikTok, and they're talking about it on YouTube, and they're talking about it, and they're showing it everywhere. They've got little videos that they're putting up, and they're like, this is like, I'm tearing up. Look at, like, you can hear Rapunzel sing. She's singing out of her tower. I'm like tearing up. This means so much to me. Like, all this shit. You could, and they just invited people early. It's not like fully open yet, right? You could do the same thing. You could open it quote unquote early and just filter in like influencers to come experience it. And like, you could be like, how you got to talk positively about our product because we're hiring you to do this. Like, that's, I'm gonna be honest with you. Anytime you see an ad read, they're talking positively, whether or not they like the product they're given. Okay. If some of them will be like, hi, I've been sent this product. But you know, I give you my opinion. But for the most part, when you see just an ad read from someone who is not someone who, you know, tries products, they're reading whatever was sent to them for the most part. So like, you know, you could be like, hi, like, you need to talk positively, which is most ad reads. I'm going to be honest with you. It is. And so, like, that's all you had to do. Just open it early and get people to come to it. And yes, I know you're like, oh, well, we need people to book it. First of all, it's Disney and it's Star Wars. People will book it. You can be vague. Even if they don't really understand, you just need to lay it out there like you're going to be in the hotel for 2.5, 3 days. You're going to be there for 2 nights. It is an entire interactive experience where you are a Star Wars character and there are storylines and you're going to act out or be part of the story. And you're not going to leave the hotel. Like, you need to kind of explain that, but you can be vague about everything else instead of being like, oh, you're smuggling luggage. You're smuggling luggage. You're smuggling luggage. Hey, you might smuggle, you're going to smuggle luggage. Don't do that kind of shit. And don't be like, here's this lightsaber thing that's kind of lame looking. And like, don't do that. You can be kind of vague while laying out like, this is the situation. And then getting other people to experiencing it early and then get them to brag about how great it was. That's all you got to do. You can be vague as shit because you don't want to like cheapen it, okay? But you've already cheapened it by what you're doing.
Has no real basis for comparison. They could compare it to LARP, but we've already covered how many normal people don't fully understand what that is. I'm sure everybody watching this video does, you freaks, but many people don't. I think Disney might have been better off comparing it to living in a video game, but maybe they knew that would have been overselling it. I can't really think of any video game that plays the way Star Cruiser does. We'll talk about that later. It might have been better to compare it to a murder mystery dinner, but those don't usually make you think of luxury and never before seen immersion. So instead, Disney...
I don't know, man. There's been some murder mystery things that I think would probably be pretty luxury. Like, there's one on a train and stuff. I was like, that seems bougie. And they're like, you're supposed to like dress up and stuff because it's supposed to be like a hoity-toity thing. I don't know.
They compared it to nothing. They relied on their brand identity and loyal customer base to essentially buy a mystery box. They showed almost nothing of what the experience would entail. They defaulted to bloated marketing language like live your Star Wars story, step into the world of Star Wars, immerse yourself in a one-of-a-kind adventure. And, as I already foreshadowed, there was one more significant complication. Part 3, the cost. So let's break this down. For our 2-person cabin, the total came to $6,066.88.
Remember, in that stupid survey they did, $900 to $1,000 per person. Per person. For 2 people, $6,000.
So that's $3,033.44 per person. The official website quoted $4,800 for a 2-person cabin, so that's what a lot of people repeat when they're discussing pricing.
Also, this is important. Per night. But you don't get to choose how many nights you're there. You're there for 2 nights. Hey, Mimi. How's it going? Thanks for the follow. Welcome to Kitty Kendall. You're there for 2 nights, no matter what. You are there for 2 nights. So this is disingenuous. This is 100% disingenuous.
But really, that's just the lowest possible price, so it's not really a reliable figure. Unlike other hotels, the room was not a flat rate, so the price went up for each person added to the booking, but it went up by smaller increments for each one. I'm just making up these numbers, but for instance, it's possible that when I went, if I had put 4 people in my cabin, it would have cost something like $7,500, but because that's now being split 4 ways, the cost per person would go down. I'm sorry if this sounds confusing, it is confusing. This was made more complicated by the lack of transparency on price points. To get a quote, you already had to know your number of travelers and all their names, you had to have a weekend in mind, and then you would call them on the phone. There was usually a long queue before you talked to someone, and then, assuming your ideal week happened to be available, the agent would tell you a price. I didn't have the freedom of clicking around on a digital calendar looking for the cheapest day.
They would add a calendar to the site after 7 months of operation, but to my understanding, it would only show availability and you still had to call for the price. That seems like I'm getting screwed over some way. That seems like that makes me feel like I'm being taken advantage of. So I have to be psychic. So that's just how I feel about that. Like they're overcharging me or something, right? Like they're charging people differently depending on different things like that.
day. I didn't play with number of guests to see how much that would raise or lower the cost. They made it so you had to move pretty far into the booking process before you could get a quote. So because of this, I can't really guess an average or median price point for any given trip. When Disney said it was possible to book a 2-person room for $4,800, that might have just meant that there was a single day each year that it cost that little. The cabin might have averaged a $5,500 price tag or an $8,000 price tag. If you were serious about going, you just had to cold call them and find out. So all this to say, since I paid for my own trip and I have my invoice and I know exactly what I paid, I'm going to be running my cost analysis based on my own experience. So,
my understanding and what I've heard is it costs $6,000 for 2 people, kind of no matter what. Like that's what people were saying. It costs $6,000 to do this with 2 people.
$6,066.88 for 2 people. This didn't include our flights to Florida, obviously, and it also didn't include transportation from the airport. I just mentioned that because Disney World used to offer free airport shuttles to hotel guests, and they decided to take that away in 2021 out of stinginess, I guess, if we're being honest. So the prices I'm discussing only covered me from the moment I arrived at the Star Cruiser. Now, let's think value for your time. How many hours of entertainment are you getting for that price? According to the sample itinerary on the website, you check in at 1 p.m. on day 1 and check out at 10 a.m. on day 3, but obviously I'm not going to include the hours I spent sleeping and showering in the value of the experience. You can see on the schedule that there's a certain time each night when you're essentially dismissed to go to bed, at which point exciting things will pause. I'm not going to be super pedantic and cut out things like meal times because after all, some of those included entertainment. I'm also not going to bother cutting out the 10-minute gaps in the sample itinerary when they have you walking from place to place. Heck, I'll even be generous and include breakfast and the shuttle back to Earth on checkout day as entertainment hours. So as you can see, day 1 gives us 7 hours and 45 minutes of entertainment time. Day 2 is going to be a 16-hour day. That sounds exhausting. And day 3 offers just 1 hour and 30 minutes. That gives us a grand total of 25 hours and 15 minutes of entertainment time. Once again, that per person cost was $3,033.44 divided by 25.25 hours equals $120.14 per person per hour of entertainment, or about $2 per person per minute. Better not sleep in, kids. I should also clarify that I paid for the rock bottom, no frills package. There were multiple available add-ons, which I did not buy. Actually, I might have bought some of them, but they were not mentioned to me when I booked, so I didn't know they existed until it was too late. At the time I was booking our spot, the hotel had not yet opened to the public, so a lot of information was still being gatekept, and it was just kind of expected that you would know what to ask for, but obviously I didn't. To be honest, that entire—
Why would you know what to ask for if they're hiding some of the options available to you because the hotel isn't open and they don't want it to get out? Like if it's like, hey, do you want to tack on an extra $200 per person to get a buildable lightsaber and then you can do this lightsaber experience? Like, are you serious?
Process was extremely confusing and frustrating and stressful. So we booked the standard room, which was the cheapest and the smallest, but there were actually options for 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom suites. The website didn't even list sample prices for these, but one fan blog took one for the team and called about booking the largest suite on a random day in September, and they were quoted a price of over $12,000. There were also less extravagant add-ons. For $30 per person, I could have upgraded our dinner seating to the captain's table experience, and again, I didn't know that existed when I booked, so I didn't get to book it, and I sure wish I had. We'll get to that. The only add-on I did pay for was the Memory Maker. This was the one thing they did recommend to me. Basically, when I was booking, they said there would be a bunch of roaming photographers on the ship, taking both candid and posed photos of guests. The Memory Maker bundle was $169, and it would allow unlimited free downloads of those photos. I correctly predicted that I would be recording video the whole time and fail to get any photos of myself, so I bought it. However, after I bought it, and just a few weeks before my trip, they rolled out another different add-on where you could buy a private photo shoot for 30 minutes for $399. And from what I can tell, once Disney rolled out this more expensive private photo session, they just reassigned all the photographers who would have been roaming the ship to do the private shoots instead because it made more money. So what I'm saying is that I paid the $169 for Memory Maker, and we didn't see any photographers the entire trip except for the ones actively engaged in private photo shoots. So I just kind of—
So basically, they just screwed you out of $100-something. Like, Did you complain? Did you get any pictures?
I lit that money on fire, and I have pretty much no photos of my trip, but whatever. This
shit.
didn't sit right with me, and I did like a sanity check on some fan groups and found out that the same thing had happened to a bunch of people where they just saw no photographers the whole time. So I actually called and emailed a couple different departments at Disney asking for a refund and wasn't able to get one. They just said no. But then I complained on my Twitter account, which has a lot of followers, and suddenly they personally called me and gave me my refund. They didn't even ask for my phone number. Like, someone at Disney did the legwork to go into the database, look up my booking info, and then find my phone number and call me within like a day of the tweet going out. And the person who called me was really nice, and I'm thankful that he cared to resolve it. But I just always feel very cynical when I...
But the fact that you have to be someone with a big following on social media to get this thing when they have absolutely just fucking robbed you is ridiculous. Because she's getting it because she said something negative on a big platform with followers that are watching and are probably getting outraged on her behalf. And so they're like, oh, we'll fix it for her. Everyone else that maybe doesn't have a big following on social media, we're just going to keep that money.
Try to resolve issues through the appropriate channels available to all customers.
Scales the Lizard Wizard, thanks for the follow from
Nobody
Kitty
will help
Kindle.
me until they find out I'm an influencer. I spoke with several other guests who got Memory Maker and had the exact same problems as me, and they never got refunds. Another hidden cost was that Disney recommended Star Cruiser guests arrive one day before their booking date. Real cruises, the ones that are on boats, also recommend this because in both cases, time is of the essence and you don't want your whole trip ruined because of a flight delay. Remember, $2 per person per minute, so we're not showing up late. But of course, this additional night in Florida is just another bonus expense for out-of-town guests. One thing that was included in the Star Cruiser price was admission to the theme park for up to 7 hours, and there were several suggested add-ons for that.
Okay, so you can go to the theme park, or at least Star Wars Land, I don't know, for 7 hours though. Dang.
That block of time, but those cost extra. You could book lightsaber building for $220, droid building for $100, or reserve a table at Oga's Cantina, food and drinks not included. For all of the above optional add-ons I've listed, there was not enough availability for every guest at the hotel to get them, even if everybody was interested in booking every single one. They were all pretty limited in quantity, and first come, first serve, and you had to know to book them. I guess some people got emails about these things, but because of a glitch, like half the people who booked just didn't get them. I was one of those. And even if everyone had known, they would have had to fight over these things, so it was kind of baked into the model that although all trips were expensive, the bulk of the trips would inherently be inferior in some...
I'm gonna be just straight up. If I'm paying $3,000+ for this experience, y'all should include the fucking lightsaber. That should be included. Do you want to sell these rooms or not? I mean, obviously not. They closed down. But, like, do you want to sell these rooms or not? Jesus Christ.
Way. Which brings me to my next point. Part 4, Spirit Airlines in Space. In the United States, we have an airline called Spirit Airlines. Everybody makes fun of it, and it's just kind of universally acknowledged that this is the cheap, awful...
Oh, she got a little Spirit Airlines plushie right here. That's what?
Airline that you only fly on if you have no other choice. Basically, how Spirit's business model works is their base ticket cost is insanely low. It's usually about half the price of the other airlines, but that half price ticket is going to be the worst flight of your life in the tiniest chair you've ever sat in, bringing nothing with you but the clothes on your back. This is because Spirit makes every possible amenity cost extra. Diet Coke costs extra, the little bags of pretzels cost extra, legroom costs extra, bags cost extra, even carry-on bags, even a purse. I actually don't think flying Spirit is a bad way to fly. If you pay for the Diet Coke and the extra legroom and the carry-on luggage, it just becomes a normal flight, just like you'd experience on any other airline. And with all that stuff added on, you're not ultimately paying more than enough
for your jacket? They made you pay extra for your jacket.
For airline, you're usually paying around the same amount. So in a practical sense, Spirit is exactly the same as every other airline. They just present the prices in a different way up front. So why does everybody hate Spirit? Because of the psychology of it. Because you see that initial price, and then for each amenity you're forced to add along the way to get back to that baseline service you're used to, each thing the airline demands payment for, you feel like you're being scammed. It makes the airline look duplicitous and stingy. You're like, ugh, They really want money for a tiny bag of pretzels? Really, guys? And it's like, well, on United Airlines, the pretzels aren't really free either. They're just factored into the total cost. But you don't know that when you're paying for the ticket. So when you get the pretzels, it feels like a perk. Framing is everything. If you pay extra for every aspect of an experience across many steps of booking, you feel taken advantage of every time it happens. It makes your relationship with the company feel antagonistic, as if they're trying to get away with doing as little for you as possible. And on the other hand, if you opt out of those amenities, if you don't add them on, you get a lesser experience. You'll have saved money, but you'll also be sitting on the same plane with all the people who did opt into the slightly better experience, and you'll be watching them get this better service. And that doesn't feel good either. That makes you feel poor. And that is why everyone thinks Spirit Airlines is the scammy, trashy airline, and they feel negatively about flying on it. So that's already pretty bad. But now, let's run a thought experiment where Spirit Airlines charges extra for everything, but that base ticket is no longer half price. In fact, it doesn't even cost the same as all the other airlines. It actually costs more than everyone else is charging, and yet all those amenities still cost extra. Extra square footage, extra activities, extra character interactions, your trip photos. Hey guys, we know you'll probably want all of these things, but each of them is going to cost you just a little bit extra. You don't have to buy any of them, but just be aware that if you don't, there is a non-zero chance that your already very expensive vacation is going to be just a little bit worse than it could have been. In my opinion, if the starting price is already so expensive that all anyone who brings up your product talks about is how expensive it is, it should then be all-inclusive. Add-ons should...
Correct. Everything should be included in that over $3,000 price tag. $3,000 for 2 fucking nights. Are you out of your mind? Are you out of your mind? Every single thing. You should get a lightsaber. That should be included in the fucking price. Or if you don't want a lightsaber, you should be like, you want a lightsaber? You want like a little like blaster. You can make a blaster. I don't know. That's not something that they like advertise. They should make like build your own blaster or something. I don't know. Like that's ridiculous. That is ridiculous that they're like, hey, you know, add this on for this amount of money or this amount of money or this amount of money or this amount of money. No, it's $3,000. And yeah, I know you got to pay everybody in that building because all of the like actors, quote unquote, are also stuck in the building and like having to act all weekend, and you're not running it back to back to back to back to back from my understanding. Like, still...
not exist. The already high price should cover everything. And there especially shouldn't be add-ons that can only accommodate a small fraction of the guests. If you're selling something as a once-in-a-lifetime experience, if an amenity cannot be provided for all guests, it should not be sold to any of them. So what I'm saying is the price seems bad, and it is. But what matters is that generates a customer experience, which is also bad. Part 5, the ship. You'll be seeing glimpses of it in all my footage anyway, but I'm sure you're curious, so first let me walk you through all of the physical environments in this experience. All the spaces accessible to guests. First stop, the arrival terminal. Driving up was kind of interesting. We actually went to the Hollywood Studios park and then traveled backstage.
Doesn't even feel like we're supposed to be here. That looks like the sign. I think that's the sign. No, that's definitely it. But it's like we're backstage.
So we got to see the back of Star Wars Land and drive past what I think are cast parking lots.
Ooh, fancy.
Yeah.
Star Cruiser.
Star Cruiser. Crazy. So because it was a restricted area, they had a security gate and they took our IDs to make sure we actually had a reservation before we could even drive up to the hotel. When we got to the terminal, it was pretty chaotic. The Star Cruiser set an arrival window of 1 p.m. to 4 p.m., but I've already shown you the cost per minute breakdown. Obviously, everybody is trying to get there and get inside as early as they can. In the story of the hotel, you must take a pod from the terminal up into space where the Star Cruiser Halcyon is waiting in orbit. So in the real world, you must take a themed elevator to the lobby of the hotel, which is on the 2nd floor. And I think that is fun. I think it's very cute.
I mean, that's cute.
That also means that they can only let like 10 guests into the hotel at a time, and the line has to stop for a minute in between. So with everybody arriving all at once, you can expect like a 40-minute wait before you can actually get inside. For reasons I genuinely cannot understand, Disney decided not to build any kind of indoor lobby at street level. It's just a long wait in this sad outdoor queue area, and then a slightly shorter wait in this sad concrete hallway. And again, again, in the story, you're not on the ship yet, so I didn't expect anything super fancy here. But like in story, this space is meant to emulate an airport terminal, so why does it look sadder than that? Surely they could have built an enclosed, air-conditioned lobby with some chairs, and then maybe guests could take a number instead of standing in line, just so everybody isn't waiting in a packed outdoor queue in the Florida heat in their Star Wars cosplays, which are also warm. And I do mean packed because there wasn't very much physical room for people to line up, which added to the chaotic vibe.
What? This was maybe poorly thought out? Gasp.
I think Disney must have assumed during construction that not everybody would arrive at once, but
I don't know why they would think that.
Assume that? They knew how much money they were charging. I mean, they even advised everyone to get there an entire day early so they could arrive on time. The cast members brought around chilled bottles of the Space Dasani they sell in Galaxy's Edge to compensate for the heat, which was very nice. And obviously a 40-minute wait isn't the end of the world, but in every aspect of the hotel, I am keeping the price in mind. Again, this was billed as a luxury hotel, and in my opinion, this isn't a luxury hotel way to welcome guests. Plus, our trip was in March and we were sweating in the shade. Imagine going in August. I mean, you don't have to now because they're out of business, but whatever. Right before you get on your pod into space, you get a little out-of-character intro video. I think this video could have incorporated a little more guidance on the gameplay of the experience, but its primary function was to play a demo of the in-character emergency alarm.
As your adventure progresses, there will be special, highly dramatic moments that will ask for everyone's attention. They will be signaled with a ship-wide display that looks like this.
Then, for comparison, they play the out-of-character alarm and tell you the protocol for a real emergency. For example, if you're in your hotel room when a fire breaks out, the hotel doesn't have fire escapes, so you're meant to crouch in this little shame closet and press a panic button, then wait in the dark for help to arrive. Comforting. I actually thought this was such a good idea. The intro video, not the shame closet. I have criticized certain other immersive experiences in the past for failing to distinguish between real and fake emergencies. But also, fake emergencies are fun, as long as you know that they're fake. So the idea of doing this video gets a chef's kiss from me. And it didn't feel like a spoiler. If anything, it made me more excited for the story because immediately you start wondering when the alarm is going to go off. Upon arrival, everyone's luggage has to go through a security check, and all the people also have to go through a security check. These happen separately because the bellhops take your luggage away as soon as you arrive. So they would confiscate pocket knives, scissors, and anything that looked like a gun, even if it was a prop.
And your journey begins.
I hope they explain that because I'm sure a lot of people have prop guns for Star Wars. That they warned you about that.
Once we made it up to the ship, individual cast members were waiting to walk each guest to their rooms. They also gave like a little mini tour as they walked with little nuggets of ship lore.
That little door right there is from our founder, Chuck DeVore. He wasn't in Selland, so...
Oh, so he only needs a little tiny door.
Exactly. He's not with us anymore, unfortunately.
Oh. And then they pointed out where everything was in the room. And our luggage was already waiting for us in our room by the time we got inside, which I loved. That whole part of the experience did feel very deluxe to me, so we were off to a positive start. We were also presented with our M bands, which in the rest of Disney World Resort are called magic bands, but these ones are special because they look different. The band has an RFID chip in it, so you can use it as a room key, you can attach a credit card to it and use it to make purchases, and it also stores fast passes for rides. This is not new technology for Disney. They've been doing it at all their hotels for a while now, but I do like it. I think it's handy. So now the trip has officially begun, and it's time to take a look around. The atrium, this is where we entered. It's a beautiful space.
Okay, I think I'm gonna stop at this
I like
section.
it a lot. It has a balcony, which is inaccessible to guests. Up there is where a lot of the major story elements are going to play out, so it's actors only. There are all these cushiony couches with end tables to set drinks on, and down at leg level, they also have outlets and USB ports to charge your devices while you're sitting there. I will say everybody was tripping over these low tables the entire weekend. They are at shin height for maximum bruising. There's this little model of the Halcyon, the ship we're meant to be on, so it's a little visual aid. At various points throughout the day, they also leave out pre-packaged snacks in the atrium, and they have taps in the corner for chilled and sparkling water. There are two tiny windows way up high on one end through which you can kind of see neighboring planets, or when the ship jumps to light speed, you can see the stripes. To be honest, I don't think it's the best view. I kind of envisioned the common areas of the ship have...
Yeah, but I could understand that on a spaceship. Like, I don't expect spaceships to have a stupid amount of windows. So, I mean, I guess that's kind of realistic, even if it is kind of disappointing.
Having a lot more ground level windows to space. I probably envisioned that because that's what all of the concept art showed before the hotel was constructed. Also, I got to eat at the space station themed restaurant in Epcot, which opened like a year before the Star Cruiser and has a ton of really large space windows, and I thought that left a much more breathtaking impression. Oh, I should also mention that when the ship jumps to light speed, I thought it would be cool if the atrium or the bridge was on some kind of hydraulic pad to give a little bit of movement when you...
That'd be expensive, though. I do think that there should be like some kind of rumbly or something, though.
You make the jump, you know.
The dining room wasn't part of this hotel, though. It's a restaurant that is expensive to go to, that is in Epcot, and the theming of the restaurant is you walk in, you get on a space elevator that takes you up to the restaurant that is in low orbit, and you eat at the restaurant. It's like $100. Like it's an expensive restaurant. I kind of want to go to it. I think that'd be cool because I just like space stuff. So I think that would be kind of neat. But yeah, that's just an Epcot. You need to get like a reservation to get there, but like it's like going to Cinderella's royal table or whatever it is called in Magic Kingdom.
Nothing hard enough to make people stumble, but just like a little kick. And since that sounded pretty ambitious,
Space
I thought they would just
cosplay,
put
nice.
subwoofers under the floor and it would like vibrate or something. And they actually didn't do that either. When the ship jumps to light speed, it plays the sound effect, and you can see the hyperspace lines through those small, distant windows, but it's not a horribly convincing effect. One feature I liked in the atrium are these big column things with projections inside. The projections are sort of rotating advertisements for things you can do on the ship, like an image of Gaia to promote her concert. Sometimes it's the Halcyon logo, and then at one point in the storyline, the First Order puts their logo up there because they've taken over. I've heard a lot of discourse about whether or not the ship looks like Star Wars, mostly people saying that it does not. Obviously, that's because everybody thinks of the Star Wars aesthetic as being dingy, lived in, everything looks like it's from the future, but also at a yard sale. On the other hand, the prequel films were dominated by green screens with smooth 2000 CGI and had some strikingly sterile and plastic environments. The sequel trilogy mostly went back to the nostalgic, dingy sci-fi aesthetic, but then we also had films like Solo showing space opulence, and across all films, the villains' big star destroyers look pretty slick and generically futuristic. So given the breadth of aesthetics across the years of movies, I wouldn't necessarily call this environment un-Star Wars. However, I do think that in even approaching the concept for this hotel, Imagineers ran into a problem. If you're charging luxury prices and offering luxury service, you want to build a luxurious environment. But in Star Wars, our heroes are primarily poor people. In fact, the rich people are usually the bad guys. One choice I found interesting is that in story, the Halcyon is meant to be an extremely old luxury cruise.
Yeah, the fact that it's like a long, long time ago in a galaxy far away, far, far away. Like, yeah, it's old. So, like, I don't know. And they're at war. Like, you don't really think resistances are gonna be like super like rich, clean, that kind of thing, right? Like they're fighting for their freedom. Freedom fighters, you think, are like, you know, the little guy coming up, right?
Cruiser with a long legacy. So that's how they explain the High Republic stylings of it. This is kind of like the Titanic of the Star Wars universe if it hadn't sunk. I just mean it's an old ship. I don't know. And I speculate.
I would argue it kind of did sink because they canceled it.
That was not only done to justify the aesthetic, but to also leave the ship open for reworked storylines. Imagine an alternate timeline where this was a smashing success and tons of people went to it, and after several years, everybody who wanted to do it had already seen it. Since canonically the ship has existed for like the entire Star Wars timeline, they could just do a story overhaul every couple years, set it anywhere they wanted to, and not have to make any physical alterations to the building. So they could set it during the original trilogy, they could have new original characters, Luke is running around, and then at the end he fights Darth Vader, or like Jabba the Hutt. Personally, I would prefer Jabba, and then they could wheel him out on like a big bicycle-mounted puppet, like the Ursula from the Little Mermaid show. He's like, oh, I'm here. That's not even what he sounds like. I just assumed
you're
that
expecting
all of
too much from this girlfriend.
The original pitch for the project, and it would have happened if it had existed long enough, but I guess now we'll never know. Anyway, through a pretty window at the front of the lobby, you can see see into the bridge, which has the biggest space windows. So you can kind of see that view into space from the atrium if it's not crowded or you're on that end of the room. The bridge was not open at all times. It was mostly locked, and then they would use it for scheduled story moments for smaller groups of guests at a time. But in the evenings when the story was over, they left it open to guests.
Are we allowed to just wander in?
Probably not, but maybe we should.
We should try.
Let's just do it.
Thank you.
The consoles were all turned off, so there was nothing to do in there during those times, but you could look around and use it as a photo op.
What's the joystick feel like? It's nice. I like it. I want to try it. It's very.
Those things are absolutely going to get broken.
Yeah.
It's a good feel to it.
Off the lobby is a gift shop full of entirely in-universe items.
During your lightsaber training, you'll wield a lightsaber, of course. We also learned how to deflect laser blasts with a shield just like this one.
I was gonna say it can't deflect a lightsaber, surely. Just lasers?
Yeah, it's more for laser blasts.
Okay.
If you do a lightsaber, I think it would be some protection right
What
there
is
as
it
well.
made of? Is it fragile?
No, it's pretty durable.
I should get this. It's plastic. It can travel.
I thought the selection of souvenirs
plastic,
was pretty
it can
cool, although
travel.
They had no plush, which I took personally. I love that the Halcyon aesthetic has everything in gold and silver and black, and it has a cool logo.
So you'll see
I
S
like
right
this
there.
droid. What is this?
He's JD series. So
Will we see him?
So our transports are driven by JD FA. So you might not see him, but you'll definitely hear him.
Ooh, okay.
They have all these in-universe clothes and accessories you can buy and immediately wear during your stay, and
That's
the
cute.
quality varied, but I liked the variety. I thought there were some really clever pieces, and personally, I think that in-universe
That book was neat. I probably would have bought that book.
items and especially wearables are always my favorite merch for anything. They were sold out of a lot of stuff when I went though, so that's kind of sad. And I read online that that was pretty much the case the entire time they were open. They never had everything in stock, and that sucks because you're probably only going to go once.
That definitely sucks because one, you're only going to go once because it's $3,000 something per person. But also, too, you know how many people are going to be there. You know how many people can fit in the hotel, and it is a 2-day experience or, 2.5 day experience, whatever. You should know. You should keep everything in stock. Like,
I'm certainly not going to get anything else now. I should also mention that I got this big, gigantic droid for like, I think like $200 or something stupid. I don't want to talk about it. He's my best friend and I love him so much. Anyway, I used the Disney Resort shipping service to send him home, which they heavily advertise everywhere because he's really big and he wouldn't fit in my luggage. And I kept my receipt, so I know I wrote my own address down correctly, but I guess when they typed it into the computer to send it to the post office, they typed a totally different address and my droid went missing. I called a couple different departments trying to ask where my droid went and what I could do about it, and they said that there was nothing that could be done. But then after I tweeted about it on my Twitter account with a lot of followers.
are you fucking serious? Disney, what the fuck? Like, are you serious?
Disney suddenly resolved it and they sent me a replacement. They actually overnighted it to me. And along with it, they sent a bunch of miscellaneous goodies, which I really appreciated. So here again, I feel like if this had happened to anyone without a lot of Twitter followers, they would have had a significantly more frustrating experience. Anyway, on the other side of the atrium, we've got the lounge. I think this area is so cool. As soon as pictures came out, people were like, it's so small.
Prower High. We're talking about the failure of the Star Wars Hotel, which is no longer functioning. It only functioned for 18 months at Disney World. We're actually close to the end of me watching this because I'm only going to watch this last little section and then I'm going to stop for the night and we're going to watch it again maybe next week.
And I agree, it's a very small space with only a few tables, but every time I went past it, it was never more than 50% full. More on that later. But anyway, at least it wasn't too small. I love all the glowing ingredient bottles behind the bar, the little inset nooks for the booths, and the quilted yellow velvet
Yeah, it's
on
like
the
4
walls.
hours.
I love quilting. It's so futuristic. This might
So
be my favorite
futuristic.
room on the whole ship. I really liked these weird creatures floating around in these tubes. I assume in the lore they're probably involved in making one of the drinks, but I didn't get to learn any of that stuff. And the last thing off the atrium is a little public restroom. I didn't film in there because I felt weird about it, but fortunately I did find a fan film which incorporated footage of it.
I need the sweetness right now. To calm me, to bring me down. Ah! Oh no. Oh no.
Ew.
I have dropped the spice everywhere.
The spice. The spice flows.
If this is found, if I am discovered, I am ruined. I am trapped.
But also, you just made a mess in the bathroom that someone now has to clean up.
Stay calm, get it all off the ground. This has all been happening How am I here? I wanted to be erased.
Okay.
So, as you can see, that was themed as well. Head downstairs and we've got a few story locations. There's the lightsaber training room, which is usually locked but will be used for a couple story moments later. There's the climate simulator, which in actuality is a small courtyard. This is for the benefit of claustrophobic guests who need to be able to see the sky and breathe fresh air. I can't relate, but some people are like that. In the story of...
I also can't relate. Every window in my house has blackout curtains on it.
The Star Cruiser, we're in space, so obviously the sky is fake. I'm doing finger quotes. I'm showing my B-roll, but I'm doing finger quotes. The room is simply simulating the climate of our destination planet so that guests can acclimate before arrival. There isn't much to do out here. They have some plants and plaques describing the plants, which we're told are in-universe, and they have all these piles of rocks.
I don't know how I did that.
There's a story moment that happens here, and I'll get to it later. There's a brig, which is fun
Pepper
because it
Ann.
foreshadows that there's probably going to be a jail.
There used to be an old TV show that I think was Disney that was about Pepper Ann. That's about all I know.
Break at some point.
I want to get thrown in the brig.
The brig?
And then there are two locked doors, the engineering room and the cargo hold.
That's going to be one of those areas on the ship that are special credentials required. I would recommend talking to...
In universe, it doesn't make any sense that he would advise us to do this, but whatever.
Very important crew members or passengers through the messages on your data pad to maybe get some access to that throughout your voyage.
You have to unlock access to those doors over the course of the story. It's mysterious.
Ooh. The cargo hold. What do they have? We gotta go inside.
So those are all the common areas, and I'm sure you're wondering about the accommodations. Part 6.
Hold on. How long is part 6? Because if it's not super long... Well, it's not super long. We'll finish this part and then stop. Are you in?
I know, it's weird. I think maybe push it in slightly. Okay. Wow, the aesthetic of that shot was...
Wow, you struggling to get into your room is great. Over $3,000, everybody.
The rooms are little. I heard before I went that the rooms were going to be little, but I guess I wasn't expecting how little.
I mean, to be fair, you're supposed to be on a spaceship, but you did pay $3,000 plus. You technically paid $6,000 for this room. But, like, you know, it is little. I mean, to be fair, I go to Japan and the rooms there are also little. I don't know.
And no, it being a simulation of a cruise ship is not an excuse. Rooms on cruise ships aren't small because it enhances the ambiance of the cruise. They're small for practical reasons because they're part of a massive craft that has to be able to move through water. This fake cruise isn't actually going anywhere, and in story, this ship is supposed to be a lot bigger than the parts we can access anyway, so it wouldn't shatter my immersion to have a slightly larger room. I guess there were bigger rooms available for higher prices. Those rooms actually weren't offered to me when I booked, or I might have gotten one of them for completion's sake. At the time I booked, they weren't even open yet, and there was very little info, so I had just sort of assumed that all rooms were equal. So it might have been nice if the booking agent warned me that I was getting the crummiest room for my extremely high price point. So, like, to be fair, it would obviously be overly simplistic to say that I'm paying $3,000 per night for this little room. I've seen a lot of people compare this to the price of other Disney hotels, and that's simply not accurate because at most hotels you're only paying for the room, whereas this is more about the entire experience. But you know what I can compare it to? The thing that Disney is comparing it to, a cruise. Both come with all your food, with alcohol costing extra. Galactic Star Cruiser has actors performing little dramatic scenes, some with special effects, but Disney Cruises have theaters on board showing what they claim to be Broadway caliber performances. And they also have roaming Disney characters to meet. Cruises are actually going somewhere, usually a private island, but the Galactic Star Cruiser does let you off into the theme park. Cruises have kids clubs with games and activities, and also have decks with giant pools and impressive water slides. So cruises do have a little more on offer, but Galactic Star Cruiser has novelty on its side, so let's just call it a wash and say they provide a roughly equivalent experience. So, okay, let's see what this price per guest per night gets you on a Disney cruise. For the Galactic Star Cruiser, it was $3,000 per night for 2 guests. So there's a 2-guest 3-night cruise to the Bahamas, and it's on the Disney Wish, their newest cruise ship. It's $97.30 total, including taxes and port fees.
Oh, God. Fucking... Oh, okay. So I'm not I'm not into cruises. 100%. We know this. I've talked about it multiple times. I have said, because I have some friends that are more into Disney than I am, that like I wouldn't be entirely against going on a Disney cruise if my friends were going as well. And then I looked into it and I was like, maybe I would be, because Jesus fucking Christ, the cost of going on a Disney cruise is insane. Like, are you serious? Holy shit. Like,
So that's $3,200.
I can go to another country. I could just fly to it and spend a week there. Or 2 weeks. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean?
Per night for 2 guests, or $6,400 for 2 nights. I think that's about as close as I can hope to get to the Star Cruiser's $6,000 2-night experience. So let's see what it gets us. A concierge level 1-bedroom.
Okay, wait, let me go back, because maybe I just don't understand what she's trying to do.
For the Galactic Star Cruiser, it was $3,000 per night for 2 guests. So there's a 2-guest 3-night cruise to the Bahamas, and it's on the Disney Wish, their newest cruise ship. It's $97.30 total, including taxes and port fees. So that's $3,200 per night for 2 guests, or $6,400 for 2 nights.
So, like, I guess she's just trying to get something similar in cost, right? Maybe. First of all, I don't want to swim with fucking dolphins. Dolphins are terrible creatures. No, thank you. Hard pass.
I think that's about as close as I can hope to get to the Star Cruiser's $6,000 2-night experience. So let's see what it gets us. A concierge level 1-bedroom suite with an extended private veranda.
Jeez.
Looks like it's right at the front of the ship. The master bedroom has a king-size bed. There's a little table and chairs to sit down and have a meal, a living room lounge area with a fold-out sofa, 2 full bathrooms, and the master bathroom comes with a double vanity mirror and jacuzzi tub. And, oh, cool.
Fancy.
It looks like they've left this guy a little fruit basket and a bottle of chilled champagne to thank him for booking such an extravagant room. In case you haven't picked up on it yet, this is one of the fanciest ways you can ever do a Disney cruise. Given that a landlocked hotel doesn't even share the same space limitations and overhead costs as a room in a ship at sea, I can't imagine any justification for the Galactic Star Cruiser having smaller rooms. And I know they can make the argument that you're not meant to spend that much time in your room anyway, that all the fun stuff is in the rest of the hotel, but cruise ships make that same argument too, and apparently are still more generous with their space.
Deadass, I would spend all my time in my room at a cruise ship. I don't want to interact with other people. God.
Disney could have spent negligibly more in the construction phase to make every room a big room, and they decided not to. There is no justifiable reason for Disney to have limited the room size
Yeah, me reading quietly without the screech of children or the interaction with other people that I just do not know.
other than stinginess and to increase pressure to get you to pay extra for a little more space. Because again, we're on that Spirit Airlines model. Anyway, it was only 2 of us in this room, and for 2 people, I would say it's perfectly adequate space. It didn't feel luxurious, but at least it didn't feel claustrophobic.
It's like a little mouse droid.
I have to ride around on it. It's actually as fun as you would think it would be.
Wait, really? I want to do it.
I'm serious.
I want to do it. Wait, there's another one. No, get out of the way. No way. Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, these are cool.
Yeah, this is your announcement. You're here as like a video of you sitting out.
But this room we were in was advertised to fit up to 5 adults, and that, to me, is insane. I don't even know how you'd fit 5 people's luggage inside. One of the provided beds was a fold-down Murphy bed under the TV, and we actually ended up folding it down like a shelf just to put our suitcases on because the floor space was pretty limited otherwise. Not to mention how limited time is to get ready each day with your one tiny little shared bathroom. I saw some people defending the Star Cruiser's pricing by being like, well, if you put 5 people in the tiny room, you may be able to get it for as cheap as $1,400 per person. To which I say, that is somehow an even worse deal. If you did that, you'd still be paying luxury prices, but now you would also be miserable the whole time. It's like when I went to Comic-Con in college with my school friends and like half of us were sleeping on the floor of a Motel 6. Except at a Motel 6, you're gonna pay like $20 a person, and you're probably going to get a room like twice the size of the one at Star Cruiser. The only demographic I can imagine happily splitting this room 5 ways is like...
Thanks for the invitation. No, I will pass. I do not want to go on a cruise. Thank you.
5 physically compact, able-bodied people, each an adult paying their own way, each of whom travels light with only like a backpack with 2 extra t-shirts in it, none of whom wear makeup, and only some of whom shower regularly. I'm sure there are groups of 5 friends who love Star Wars and fit that exact description. And even in their case, I feel like they'd be massively overpaying for what they'd be getting.
So it's just trailers.
It's just like, yeah, I think it's just trailers for Disney Plus, and then The actual stuff you can watch is just like ads and trailers and stuff. Like this isn't the movie Eternals.
To fully unlock the TV options, we had to sign into an existing paid Disney Plus account? Are you serious? Disney. What? What is wrong with you? Like, there's this whole thing of like Disney's been fucking up the magic. Like, Disney's been fucking with the magic, and they've been very upfront about being as money hungry as possible. This is disgusting. This right here, that you can't even watch stuff on television, you can just watch them advertising Disney Plus, basically, is disgusting. Are you fucking serious? I'm getting mad.
Wait, what? Are you serious? No, like, is there anything on this that's a real movie?
What?
Oh my god. Is it like a storybook reading?
Oh, no, it is.
Oh, no. That's actually, like, how much would they lose just giving people access to Disney Plus?
Anyway, there are things I like about the room. The first one is just luck, but our room was extremely well positioned.
So they probably have it set up. So you can set up like guest account things. Daniel does that when I go and stay with them, which is, I never do that because like I just always have my tablet or my laptop with me anyway, but he has like a TV in his guest room, and he's like, here, I've set it up to where like you can log into any of your stuff with your account and it will log you out. Like, so like after you're done, like after you leave or something, like I think it's on a timer or something, after so long or whatever, it logs you out automatically. So you don't have to worry about that, really. But that's still, like, why the fuck would you do that? Like, just have everything logged into, like, a Disney Plus account. Or just...
The hallways with the guest rooms were super long, and ours was, like, right at the top of the hallway, I think because I booked so...
Yeah. So normal Disney, like, things have, like, you know, cable TVs in there. But because you're on a Star Cruiser and it's super immersive, first of all, they don't want you staying in your room and watching TV. So they probably really only have anything just for like kids to watch or whatever. That's why they're like quote unquote storybooks. But like, you're not supposed to be in your room for anything other than sleeping. However, like this just seems cheap and kind of disgusting.
Early. We were in room 4-103. The 4 means that in the story of the cruise, we were on the 4th deck of the ship. But the 103 means that in real life, we were on the ground floor of the building. That means that in a fire, we would probably live, which is always fortunate. And it also means that we shared a floor with a lot of the amenities, like the climate simulator, the dining room, and the transportation to the theme park. It was crazy convenient. I slept in the top bunk of the bunk beds, and I really loved my little space pod.
I kind of like the idea of being in a little space cubby.
Yeah?
I would also like that, honestly.
Things are squishy. Oh, they are.
I think it's for kids. Wait, what is that? Oh, maybe it's a little reading light. Oh yeah, it is. See?
Oh, that's cute.
It's a little light.
Oh,
this is sick.
Nagumo, hi, thanks for the follow. Welcome to Kitty Kindle.
Oh, I want to do it. Oh, it does. Nice.
It's padded all the way around, and it made me feel like I was in a little sci-fi cocoon. The mattresses were really firm, and that's what my back likes. I know some people like a soft mattress, and they may have not liked it, but I liked it. They left these quilts on the bunk beds. It's basically just a mattress with a fitted sheet, and then you drape a quilt over you. That's actually how I sleep at home, because it's easier to make the bed that way, so no shade. I actually really wish they sold the quilts in the gift shop, because that would have been like my favorite souvenir. I heard that some people just stole the quilts, and then they charged the credit card attached to the room, and I should have done that. I should have stolen the quilt. I love the overall aesthetics of the room. If they had made the room bigger or the price point smaller, it would have been an A+ from me.
Oh, look, little space details at the foot of the bed.
Cute. I call this baby blues.
And then of course we've got the shame closet. I'm ambivalent about it. I just wanted to show it to you.
Oh, creepy. No storage. Yeah, that makes sense.
They left us a little souvenir tin with makeup remover wipes and bubbling face masks. I tried them and they were really nice, and I ordered more online. A+. Look, they're branded and everything. It's so cute. And the illustrations on the back show a Twi'lek using it. I love it. I would totally keep buying them, except now the Star Cruiser is going out of business, and the soap company that makes them is also going out of business. It's a curse. I should also mention that each guest room had this little terminal where you could talk to an AI droid character.
Cute. It's a map of the ship.
Well, I certainly didn't plan for stormtroopers to use the bunk.
That looks so incredibly fake. It hurts me. She's cosplaying her own little character. So the outfit that she's wearing is the outfit of like a stewardess or something on this quote unquote Star Cruiser. So she's basically cosplaying as someone who works at the hotel. She bought it in the gift shop.
I don't like this droid. Oh.
Hello and welcome aboard.
Look at this. Come see it. Hi.
Is now a good time to discuss your journey?
Sure.
Wonderful.
No, I don't like it.
I'm sorry, I just don't find this kind of technology very interesting. It's cool that she's animated, but this just feels so limited, at least at this point in time. Like, I have an Amazon device that turns on my lights for me, but I wouldn't do that on vacation as an activity. Do you know what I'm saying? So I tried to give it a fair shot for a minute, but then I wanted to leave, and I'm afraid I never tried it again.
Before I forget, did you bring any Dianoga eggs with you on board?
Yeah.
I'm so pleased we found you. We found the eggs unattended in the hydrolift and wondered where they came from. I'll move them to containment for our voyage. Now, as for what you can do first. Now, unless there's anything else, I'll let you go.
Glitches out and gives up.
Best journey.
Bye. Okay.
Okay, so let's talk about the space window.
That is cute.
That's so cute. It doesn't read well on camera. It's literally just our reflections in it. Hello.
I saw a lot of people bashing the space window, and I think they're being sticks in the mud. One of the most common refrains was, who wants to pay thousands of dollars to sleep in a windowless coffin? I don't know, I guess I'm built different, but in the short term, I don't really care about having windows or seeing the sun. Maybe this is why my sleep schedule is so broken.
You just hit like
Same.
We're somewhere new now. This is probably the best looking animation I've seen on TV. We're watching Ghost Adventures.
I think a space window is a cool substitute and prefer having a themed view to an ordinary one, and didn't feel claustrophobic about not having a real window. But I didn't think the effect was all the way there.
Why is it so smeary?
Smeary.
Real? Yeah. Yes. Okay.
It never looked very convincing.
There's a little ship.
To be fair, they don't show up.
So I think they're trying to be like, oh yeah, this is how light should reflect in space or whatever, blah, 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 blah. And also we want it to feel like maybe it's not totally fake by making it kind of blurry because we're moving in space and light might reflect a weird way, but yeah, they just made it look fake.
Well on camera, but to be totally honest, they don't look much better in person. Worst of all, they've got these bright light strips pointed outward around the perimeter of the window. I assume there's some kind of optical illusion science at play here, like maybe the power of contrasts, or maybe keeping our pupils little is meant to make the effect look less bad. But unfortunately at bedtime, most people find those light strips too bright to sleep with, and they're right next to the bed because the room is tiny. They do have this button you can press to close the window, so, turn it off, and that shuts off the lights.
I'm just gonna do a lot of like slow pans. What'd you do?
I don't know.
What'd you do?
I closed the. What? I closed the screen.
Oh my god.
Do it. Do it.
You broke it. It's never gonna open again.
But that means if you want those LED strips turned off, you have to turn off the space window, which I would have liked to leave on so I could enjoy it while settled down in my little cocoon. After the hotel had been open a few months, I started seeing posts pop up in Disney World fan groups.
Blocking space window lights at night. I've heard a few mentions of people suggesting bringing tape or something so you can leave the viewport going at night without being blasted with light. Has actually anyone done this? Another planning tip regarding tape over the window frame lights so you can enjoy the space view at night while trying to sleep. First picture is normal window, as others have posted. Painter's tape is safe, but still lets light through. I bought black gaffer's tape used by many costumers. Okay. And musicians, I know about that one, would work, and it turned out to be perfect. It's really opaque and doesn't leave residue. Tape looks Gaffer's tape is so expensive for that, though.
Groups being like, pro tip, bring gaffer's tape.
One of my main tips is to bring blue painter's tape for your bedroom window. This allows you to see the view at night as you prepare to sleep. Otherwise, you'll have bright white light shining on you, or you close the windows, turn off the lights. It's very easy to remove, no residue. As my mother mentioned in the comments, this is 2 layers of painter's tape to block with bright light, to block the bright light enough for nighttime enjoyment.
And manually cover all the light strips around the window so you can enjoy it at night. And first of all, most people would not know to do that, so that's not helpful for everyone staying in the hotel. And secondly, it's a little pathetic to be paying luxury prices for a hotel room where you have to then spend 20 minutes putting gaffer's tape on the walls to make its features functional. I really love the idea of a themed hotel room. In fact, whenever I go to a new place, one of the first things I do is Google city name plus themed hotel to see if there are any options. That's how I end up staying in train cars and tiny western towns and goat.
What the fuck was she holding?
So, while I think the demographic for a luxury priced themed hotel has got to be extremely small, I am squarely in that demographic. And even with that in mind, this room fell short of my expectations. So, C+ for the room. Part 7.
Okay, we're gonna stop there. This was part 1. If I don't stop there, I'm never gonna stop. I'm just gonna keep going, and I'm only an hour into this 4-hour voyage, and I have been streaming this part, and so like an hour and almost 40 minutes. So I guess I didn't talk as much as I often do. I don't know if that was a giant spider plush. It was giant something. It was a little upsetting to me. I'm not gonna lie to you. Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can find it.
Putting gaffer's tape on the options. So, while I think
okay, no.
Google city name plus
Maybe?
themed hotel to see if there are any options. That's how I end up staying in train cars and tiny western.
Is that a spider? I don't know. It might be. Like, what is that? Why does she have that? Why does she want that? I hate it. Whatever this is, I hate it. No, thank you. Like, this is awful. Like, whatever that is, I hate it. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Oh, I like this comment someone made about her stealing like the quilt off the ship. It's like, you wanted to steal a quilt? I think you meant you wanted to smuggle a quilt off the ship. That's pretty funny. Jesus, like, this seems so bad. Like, I'm gonna be honest, Disney, buddy. Good decisions were not made in regards to this hotel experience, or this interactive immersion experience, whatever you want to call it. Like, jeez. Oh. All right.